your mind.
Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
Myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 20th January 2019. We're actually in Studio 2 due to a little bit of a family crisis. So we just said we'd run it from Studio 2 tonight. And plus the fact that me and Steve were looking at the time and going, my God, it's 7 o'clock. There we go. We're chatting away again.
We were just in the middle of a conversation there. just glanced at the clock.
We do this on a regular basis. It's just one of them things. Now, folks, listen. The plan of attack for the guests tonight was to have Michael Tellinger on and Harry Rhodes. Unfortunately, Michael has just texted Harry and said that he can't do the interview. He's up a mountain somewhere, which we're a bit cheesed off about because we've done all the PR and marketing and the advertising to have Michael on, and so is Harry. Harry was a bit upset about it as well because that was the plan of attack. So a bit annoyed at that. But there you go. But Harry is going to be on with us anyway. We've loads to catch up with Harry, so we'll be talking to Harry soon. But as usual, we've a few things to talk about, and let's find out what the communication channels are.
Okay, communication channels.
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Yes, thanks very much, Mary. 0469271212 is the phone number if you fancy ringing in from inside Ireland. If you're going to be ringing in from outside Ireland, the phone number is 00353 469271212. The website is oymradio.com, and if you log into there, you'll see all the links for podcasts and all the great information, including the links on the left-hand side for the YouTube channel, the email, the Skype, the anti-social media Facebook, Twitter and MeWe, and the email address info@oymradio.com if you want to drop us an email during the show or during the week just to say hi. Maybe if you have an idea for a guest or even a topic, I'll just let us know where you're listening from. Much appreciated as usual, and we have got several emails in this week alone, and I want to say thanks to everyone who did take the time to drop an email. We also monitor the chat room on our website as well, so if you have a username and a password, you can log straight in there and join the festivities with the group of reprobates that are over there every week, and they're all very welcome. Great bunch of people, I have to say, and also People's Internet Radio. We're streaming on peoplesinternetradio.com also, and a fantastic bunch of lads and ladies on the chat room over there as well also. So you can log in there for your questions as well for a guest this evening. Don't forget as well, on our own website, oymradio.com, you will see the link for Patreon. If that's something that you're interested in, maybe dropping us the price of a cup of coffee or joining as a patron on Patreon, you can click the link there down the bottom of the site, and that will take you to the relevant page where you can do that. The TuneIn Radio link as well. We've a link for that app as well. It's a free app, as I say every week. It's down the bottom of the website, and you can listen to us all day every day, and get the podcasts as well. Alan.
Cheers. Thanks, Steve. Well, you're going to kick us off, Steve, with their bits and pieces.
I am. We have some information, and as most of you may know by now, Ben Gilroy, probably the most famous activist in all of Ireland, he's an activist for truth, and who has been on the show literally only 2 weeks ago. He's been jailed for 3 months, courtesy of AIB Bank. I don't need to tell you why, but this is why their system has come down. While various other people are walking around as corrupt as they come, people like Ben are getting jailed. The GoFundMe page that has been set up very recently by Jim Corr has reached its target just within a couple of days. But what's disturbing is that someone tweeted the following, #fundraiser, hire a hitman in Mountjoy to have Ben Gilroy shanked. We're looking to raise the price of a bag of tobacco, it says, to get a hitman in Mountjoy to shank racist scumbag Ben Gilroy. If you can contribute, please contact us. Now, Ben's wife has actually been on, she was actually interviewed recently in tears because of that statement, and I think it beggars belief who would actually do something like that, because, I mean, you only have to look at Ben's track record and what he's done. I mean, he's a man, he's one of us, and he's for the people.
Exactly, and we had a chat with Sarah Jane on Facebook today, and she said if you want to get updates on what's going on, then if you go out to a Facebook page, Tiger Reborn or the Yellow Vest pages, you'll find information there about Ben. That was just bad that have somebody tweet that about Ben in prison. I mean, there's sick people out there. There really is sick people out there. Right, okay, now talking about the history of Ireland. As you know, a few weeks ago we had Chris Fogarty on, and Chris wrote a book called The Perfect Holocaust, and I'm in the middle of reading that at the moment, and I just want to read out part of it, a small segment of it, because what we're going through here in Ireland at the moment, we've been going for hundreds of years. It's been the same thing over and over again. And I just want to read out because, you know, people that don't understand history or don't learn from history are going to repeat it. That's the same. And in the book it says, so this is just a small part of it where it says, so what the commissioners, this is talking about the 1840 census. Even in 1840, they were going around doing a census of the people. And they're talking about the census, and it says, so what the commissioners considered were the census' great strength, were in fact its greatest weaknesses. Trust between those counting and those being counted is an essential element in implementing any credible census. There are many places in the world where that trust is missing, and it was certainly missing in Ireland in 1840. The constabulary were historically and currently associated with implementing evictions, enforcing the titles and other taxes, arresting, imprisoning, and if necessary, executing political opponents of the government. The force were consequently alienated from the population and regarded quite rightly as the paramilitary police, an intelligence arm of a foreign government that had no accepted moral authority as a police force for the population as a whole. They were the last people in the world that the population would have been willing to give personal information. Now, this was 1840. Does that not ring a bell today to people? Does that not sound similar? That things are going on, that are kind of the same thing is happening? And it says here, the constabulary, later OIC, subsequently ran the census right down to 1911 and always treated it quite blatantly as an intelligence gathering exercise. You know, I mean, that's exactly what's happening today. And that was in 1840. And even before that, there was a lot going on as well. I mean, we just don't learn from history. If that's the case, we just don't learn from history, and we're doing the same thing over and over again. History is just repeating itself. The same people doing the same thing to us over and over again. It's just madness. Really is madness. A good book so far. I've been reading it and I'm finding it very interesting. It's called The Perfect Holocaust. It's not the famine. It was got to do with the Holocaust. Steve. Okay,
a bit of news in from Reuters.com. It says former INSYS CEO pleads guilty to opioid kickback scheme, and this is from Reuters in Boston. It says the former chief executive of INSYS Therapeutics Incorporated pleaded guilty on Wednesday to participating in a nationwide scheme to bribe doctors to prescribe an addictive opioid medication and has agreed to become a government witness. That's disturbing in itself, but I mean, I don't think it's big news. I think that goes on all the time. It certainly goes on here, whereby if somebody, I'm guessing other countries all around the world, that if somebody wants to get a particular drug into a doctor's surgery and have them prescribe it, then all they have to do is offer the doctor, if he's a sporting man, maybe if he plays golf, they'll offer him a nice weekend away with his wife at some great holiday golfing resort, and that's pretty much it, really. But yeah, they want to get people addicted to their opioids. There's nothing new about that. That's it. I mean, it's making news again, but it's old news in a sense, because anyone who knows the pharmaceuticals or the drug, sulphate does actually have some of the opioid medication in it, and it is addictive. And it's only after you've been taking it for a while for pain that you do realise that you are addicted to it. And when you stop taking it, you get the withdrawal symptoms. I've actually had personal experience of that myself. And now what they've done, well, they've done it in the past couple of years here, is they've said that if you want to order or if you want to buy the sulphate over the counter, you'll be first challenged by the person. Have you tried ibuprofen? Have you tried Panadol? Have you tried paracetamol?
Ibuprofen, they said to ban that, you're not supposed to be taking it.
Yeah, but that's what they do now. If you actually go in and you wanted to buy the sulphate, you're asked, have you tried this, have you tried that, have you tried the other? And as a last resort, they will still sell it to you. And that was the case about 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I was actually found myself in a chemist very recently, and a guy walked up to the counter and he ordered a box of sulphate, and the lady just basically said to him 12 or 24 soluble or capsules, and there was no challenge at all. So I mean, with this new thing that was brought in where it was supposed to challenge it, it's gone by the wayside. You know, because people, I mean, and I don't know if you've ever taken those yourself, but after you've been taking for a while for pain, it's normally for chronic back pain that I was taking for. I did find myself in a situation where I thought that I was getting headaches. And I had to keep taking the medication, and I was thinking, wow, all of a sudden I was taking it for back pain. This is a long time ago actually. Yeah. I was taking it for back pain, and the pain in my back went, so I stopped taking the tablets, and then I started getting headaches. So I had to keep taking the tablets to get rid of the headaches. And then after this loop went on, I realised, well, actually someone said to me, that's withdrawal symptoms, and I said, withdrawal symptoms from Panadol? And they go, no, it's from the opioid that's actually in the sulphate.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
the codeine, sorry.
The person that we both know a few years ago was addicted to codeine.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to kind of get off it.
Yep.
You know, they just were taking it like they were taking, you know,
exactly, yeah.
And this article that you read out, a lady that's on Facebook, a Facebook friend, also sent us over a picture of a document, and in the document it said about bonuses being paid to doctors for selling opiates and drugs.
Yeah.
So we know, but then again, look, we said this. I mean, I worked in the bloody industry. I mean, the salespeople were going around with the laptops and their briefcases going into GPs going, hey, your drugs are better than their drugs, you know? You know. I mean, I think everybody accepts it now. How's your week?
Yeah, my week's fine. There's not a whole hell of a lot to report, as I say every week. This week there's not really much to report. It's been an interesting week. I've just been kind of like everyone else in the country. I've been following what's been happening on Facebook and Tiger Reborn with Ben Gilroy and the case, and I've seen some of the live videos as well, whereby they're out there protesting, and the guards are coming along and they're suggesting that they move on, and they're trying to suggest that the people are stopping people from getting to work. I don't know if you've seen that. They were saying to one lady protester, you know, yeah, you're preventing people from getting to work. She says, we're not preventing people from getting to work. You know, we're here and we're protesting, but you know, they're not blocking roads, and I think if anything, the guards are blocking roads, and then they're saying that they had to block the roads because of all these protesters, and you know, there'll be more trumped up charges. But yeah, look, we'll just wait and see. It doesn't look like there's any chance of Ben being released anytime soon. But then again, from some of the videos that I've seen, I'm sure you've seen them as well, Alan, there may be 100 protesters there. I think what needs to happen, it needs to really go viral across this land, and every man, woman and child needs to wake up, and everyone needs to just stop what they're doing and get down there. Imagine what sort of a reaction it would be if the whole country as a whole, 5 million people, arrived into Dublin. I suppose there'd be nowhere to put them. But, you know, imagine if the whole country came to a standstill, all because of this. And, you know, to have this man released was the will of 5 million people.
Well, think about it, Steve. They've actually shot themselves in the foot, because if they just let Ben off, then it would have just been, Ben would have done the community service and it would have went quiet. Yeah. But what's happened now is, unofficially, they've made him a martyr, which means that it's gone all over viral, all over Facebook and social media, and people are now outside protesting Yellow Vest movement. They've actually shot themselves in the foot. They've made it worse, because now when people look at politicians, they'll be going, well, why the hell would I vote for you? What the hell do you do? What have you done? So they've shot themselves in the foot, because whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, publicity is publicity. That's right. And that's exactly what's happened. So, but again, that's what they did.
Okay, and the only other thing I want to mention was a picture that I did share on Facebook during the last couple of days, and you said to me, "Let's keep that one for the show." So I have it here for the show, and it's in relation to politicians. And I'll just read it out, and then I'll post a link to the picture where you can have a look. It's and if you're any good at Photoshop, you can edit it and make of it what you wish and put in your own names and what have you. But it says, while stitching a cut on the hand of a 75-year-old farmer whose hand was caught in the squeeze gate while working with cattle, the doctor struck up a conversation with the old man. Eventually, the topic got around to politicians and their role as our leaders. The old farmer said, "Well, as I see it, most politicians are post-turtles." Not being familiar with the term, the doctor asked him what a post-turtle was. The old rancher said, "When you're driving down a country road and you come across a fence post with a turtle balanced on top, that's a post-turtle." The old farmer saw a puzzled look on the doctor's face, so he continued to explain. "You know, he didn't get up there by himself. He doesn't belong up there. He doesn't know what to do while he's up there. He's elevated beyond his ability to function, and you just wonder what kind of dumbass put him up there to begin with." And it says, best explanation of a politician I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, it's very good. That is very good. When I read that, that's why I said, read it out for the show. It's very good.
Yeah. And the absolute last thing as well is another graphic which I'm going to post up in the chat room. It's just something that I came across as well. And it's symptoms of radio wave sickness. This is allegedly a US Naval Medical Research Institute 1972 declassified document. But it's a graphic anyway, so I'll post that up and you can have a look at it and see if you have any of those symptoms. I know I do. Anyway, how's your week?
Right, just before we bring Harry in, just a few things as usual. And now Facebook are doing a 10-year challenge. I'm sure you've all seen it, where they ask people to put up a photo of themselves within a 10-year gap of each other. And people are falling for it and giving them what they want. I mean, these things appeal to people's ego, you know, especially the IQ stuff. Can you pass this IQ? This is, you know, only a few people in the world can pass this IQ thing, right? This is all data mining. All these quizzes, all these things are all data mining, and people are falling for it and actually putting their photos up. Fantastic. Now we know what you looked like 10 years ago, and now we know what you look like now. So as I say, whether it's a quiz or something like the 10-year challenge, it does amaze me. It's a data mining exercise, and you just have to be aware of these folks. You know, whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on other social media platforms, anything got to do with you giving information, more than likely is data mining, especially with Facebook. The other thing is now MeWe is getting to be a big platform now for social media, and you know, anything that grows obviously is going to be open up to hacking and all that kind of stuff. And during the week I got a couple of emails in from these scantily clad ladies in bikinis.
Nice.
MeWe, and this lady wants to be your friend on MeWe. No, right? She's very nice in her bikini there, you know. And so I said, it says click the link to agree to be your friend. And I went, will I click the link? Will I take the money? I'll click the link. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do, just for a bit of fun. I'll log into MeWe Direct and just see if she happens to be there as a friend request. And guess what happened? I logged in and she wasn't there.
Oh.
You reckon that link could have been a bit dodgy?
I would say it'd be very, very dodgy.
Yeah, okay. So the two girls went in my deleted items. But if I get any more in, I will definitely take a photo or a scan and I'll stick it up on Facebook and MeWe, just to show people that, you know, the scammers don't miss a trick. When something happens, they love doing their bit, you know. And the other thing is regarding links, very important. We've said this before. If you're going to send us a link, please give us a description of what the link is. There are people who are sending links, and I just delete them now. I mean, once bitten, twice shy. I got caught out before. I'm not going to get caught out again. There is a virus going around that actually just says, hello, your name, then the link, and then the name at the end. And if you're not careful, it could easily look like it's coming from a proper email address, but that link ain't going to bring you to where you think it's going to bring you to. So I just delete any emails that are purely just a link and no information. So if you're going to send us a link and go, Al, have a look at this is very good, put a description as to what it is, otherwise it's going to be deleted, okay? I've said that before on the show. And the last thing is, you know when you're watching the likes of, I like Wheeler Dealer and Car SOS and all these programs, right?
Yep.
And in between the shows, they have the adverts, right? Loads of adverts. I don't know whether you've noticed this, but they have a plethora of adverts now, all got to do with donating the €3, the €3 at, for €3 you can save our goldfish. For €3 you can save the pigeons in Trafalgar Square. It doesn't matter. Whatever animal that's going on in the world, whatever animal it is, it could be a fox, it could be an elephant, it could be a horse, it could be a donkey, it could be a pigeon, it could be a snail. And with your help, we can save the snails of the world for €3 a month. Honest to God, I mean, we know about these shows that this money doesn't actually go anywhere near where it's supposed to go to. Ian Crane, I know, did the research on this. And, we've been told by Thomas as well that it's, they're struggling for money. So all these shows come out, and even there's a question mark about Band-Aid as well. I mean, that was raised as well, allegedly. But yeah, it's like, for €3 a month, you can save our squirrels. Honest, it just gets ridiculous, So, just to have a moan about that. Sorry. Right, okay, we're going to get our guest on. Harry is a good friend of OYM. He's a great guy, and his team are doing great work on the weather side. And we're going to get an update from Harry as to what's going on, because apparently people have been saying, or the weatherman has been saying, that the beast from the east, or whatever you want to call it, is supposed to be coming back in again. And we heard about David Dubois saying about the weather changing, the grand solar minimum, where we're going to have very hot summers, very cold winters, bad weather and everything else. And the man that has his finger on the pulse is obviously Harry, because he's watching it all the time and making changes to it all the time, hopefully for the better. So yeah, we have to catch up with Harry and find out what's going on. Good evening, Harry. How are you?
Good evening.
How are you? Right, Harry. For people who don't know who Harry Rhodes is, do you want to give us well, we have a quick bio there, Steve.
Hang on a second, that's not a quick bio. That bio would take me 10 minutes to get through.
Right.
That's just another one of my boots.
Yeah, okay. Okay, no, let's do let's be respectful to Harry. Let's give I actually cut that down.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Harry's been a writer of patents for 18 years, an inventor for 15 years, and has been researching chemtrails for 6 years. One of the highlights of Harry's career was when he made David Keith run off stage, only to be dragged back on by the host in front of some of the world's top geoengineering scientists for evading Harry's question of the genocide reaction of mercury in our bodies, having a catastrophic reaction with his aluminium sulphate aerosols. Harry also gave a presentation at the Chemtrails Summit, Vancouver USA, with Terry Lawton, and toured the whole west coast of the USA doing presentations of Etheric Translators, I do apologise. He now has a worldwide team who work together, Etherically, healing the atmosphere. As far as Harry knows, he was the very first activist to use satellite technology to prove and monitor chemtrail activity in the whole of Europe, the UK and Ireland. He realised very little could be achieved by constantly pasting photos of chemtrails and just using Facebook as a keyboard warrior. He begged on his hands and knees for an answer from whatever energy creator or carer of the universe was out there. He stood back up with tears running down his face. Within 12 hours, a photo of Reich Cloudbuster appeared on his screen, and by sheer fluke, someone sent him a video of Trevor James Constable, who did not know what he had just asked for. Then, like a madman, Harry manically built one 20-foot high. He then realised when he finished it that he did not have a clue how to use it. Then just 24 hours later, he was put in touch with two people who personally knew Trevor James Constable, and one of them had met Wilhelm Reich's personal helper and chauffeur, and the rest, as they say, is history.
There you go, Harry. So, A few years later, you're now a dab hand at this technology, and you have a team worldwide dealing with what's going on. Tell us, give us an update. What's happening?
Well, yes, we have some massive changes in the weather, and it's not always natural, of course. You mentioned the satellites, and one thing that's very interesting, the programs that they have, we can monitor on their satellites, and the evidence is mind-blowing. We see frequencies, we see changes in the cloud, and it's so blatant. Nobody can deny it. And now finally we know they have come out publicly, David Keith, who you mentioned, my best mate, that they're now live with it. They are deploying it. Now every shill should hang his head in shame, because we've had stick for years where they've said, nah, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, it ain't no conspiracy theory no more. But we know it's been going on for years anyway. But even members of the team have been blown away by what we do. We can't reveal secrets here, but I thought it was necessary to do this show because we're coming to a catastrophic line at the moment whereby they are shoving it in the public's face. We hardly see the sun some days, and you imagine if it goes full bore with full fleets of aircraft. Houston, we've got a problem, doesn't even come into it. It's a big thing, and it's not just solar radiation management. I worked out by looking at patents, I can bring patents up that the general public can't see, and I reckon there's about 8 different agendas here. Energy, Tesla energy in the atmosphere, frequencies of the Earth, it goes on, transhumanism, genetically modifying everything on the planet. And in fact, there's some information I'll bring out later, which is, if every activist knew it, and it is true, the whole picture has come into place. Everything's come into place with the covenant of the Zionist Jews. A lady risked her life, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Obviously, you've been monitoring the weather, just on a daily basis. And just for people hearing the news, the weather report saying that this beast from the east is supposed to be coming back. I mean, that's what they're going to name it. I'm not saying it's going to be from the east, but because of what happened last March, they're obviously talking about a potential again. Is that on the cards? Are you seeing that from where you're sitting?
Well, we're supposed to have had a freeze out 3 weeks ago for at least a fortnight, and it never happened. That's in the UK, by the way. And when you look, I'll hold my hand up. We have done things as a team that have prevented that, and the technology is mind-blowing. But there's 2 things going on right now, and it's genuine. One is the solar minimum. It started in 2012, and they always say the opposite. They say we're in global warming. We are not. We're in a solar minimum that happened 300-400 years ago that brought the Black Death. But when it comes to Europe, yes, there's 2 things going on. One, there's geoengineering. They use ionizers and frequencies and gravity waves. Yes, they've got their stuff. They have it. Even from the poles, they can change the weather. And we've got the solar minimum. And, of course, we've got natural weather as well. The ether is a healer. It naturally cures. But the solar minimum is for real. One thing I can say, and if people look on YouTube, they will look at some of the consequences of the solar minimum from the past. A drop in ultraviolet light from the sun allows fungal spores and germs and viruses to flourish. And then you've got a problem, because it's not just the drop in temperatures and the sunlight. All food production becomes affected, and that's why the last solar minimum in the 1400s, 200 million people died on the planet as a direct result of that.
Wow. That's a lot of people. Yeah, that's a bit worrying. Now, there is a chap we had on the show, I think it was last year or the year before last, called Guy McPherson. And Guy kind of had all the kind of doom and gloom. He didn't have any kind of solutions at the end of it. He just said, yeah, we're all going to die, it's solar minimum, and yeah, that's it, we've only a few years to go. And I noticed that his channel, his YouTube interviews are coming back up on my feed on YouTube. And he's obviously still talking about the fact that, you know, we've only a few years, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, have you heard of Guy McPherson? Have you heard his information?
Yeah, I've seen I can't remember the name, I would have prepared more so on that, but they've gone back in history and looked at the ice cores and looked at what changes took place. And it is a genuine thing if we are to believe everything that they've said. But there are activist scientists who are trying to tell the public that this is for real. And it wouldn't be no surprise that they say it's global warming when in fact there's a freeze-out coming. That's a typical trick. But yes, there is plenty of evidence to suggest that's the case. But whether there will be an absolute catastrophe to the degree that they say, I doubt, because there's always people that survive and prepare and go through these catastrophes. And we've got modern technology these days where, you know, tinned food, a normal tinned food will last 8 years. Forget sell-by dates. I mean, tinned food will last 8 years. I've got a stock of food in to last me about 4 months, and I think everybody should have at least 2 months' food supply at any time. But yes, there are problems coming, and there's already, if you look on YouTube and look at the food production, it's been dropping all over the planet in the last 24 months. And some crops have gone catastrophic, and already in the UK we've seen prices going up on food. Yeah, sometimes by as much as 15 and 20%.
Yeah, it is worrying about the food supply and what they are using for food. More and more, they're using different ingredients, or they're using substitutes, and we think it's food and it's not. And that's what we have to be careful of as well, that we think we're eating something that's healthy. I know that one of the things that it was actually Ben did on a video, because he's seen it, where he bought apples from Aldi. And he put the apple in hot water, and this wax coating was coming off it, and it's to preserve the apples. But people who buy the apples are obviously eating that wax coating along with the apple. And just like things like that, which is, you know, a bit concerning. You want to get natural, you know, vegetables and fruit and stuff like that, not coated with wax. So that's a bit of a concern. David Dubois, when he came on, was saying that this solar minimum is going to last till about 2035, he said, give or take, if memory serves me well. Now, are you seeing a massive change now with the sun and what's going on?
Yes, we are. Quite big changes. When you look at the polar vortex, instead of being tight, it's increased by about 30 to 35%, sometimes 40% of its natural size. And that's why you start getting much colder climates down the States. You know, some of these weather reports, the mainstream media haven't been reporting on. It comes out in alternative media where people are putting photos out. They have reported on some in Europe where they've had catastrophic snowfall. And incidentally, there is a proof of some deployments of what teams have done, where the UK has been higher than normal temperatures by putting this etheric protective wall out, and yet Europe, we would have had that in the UK had we not done what we've done. But yeah, it's a toughie, isn't it, when someone's saying we're going to have a problem for 35 years, and yet there's others saying that we're not. I mean, where do you go? What do you do? I say make some preparation, absolutely, just in case. Definitely.
Now, I will say that the weather has been very, suspiciously, very, very mild, hasn't it, Steve? Over here in Ireland, anyway.
Well, it has been for most of last week. It was very mild. Then the tail end of tail end of this week, -2 we had.
Yeah, but we didn't have any ice or anything like that. We haven't had any of that, like the roads being bad.
No,
and all that. We've had none of that. It's very kind of uncanny that it hasn't been like that. And you think, is this the lull before the storm, before something's going to come in and hit? I don't know. It's a bit suspect.
Well, mainstream is predicting. I mean, they have been saying this on mainstream for the past couple of weeks that February we are looking at a return to what we had last February, which is the heavy snowfall.
Yeah, the beast from the east.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll say where translators are concerned and Willem Reich's technology. I mean, I'm not giving some fantastic secrets out here, because you can go on YouTube and you can look at Willem Reich's past history of Cloudbusters and the large equipment he built and the results he had, and also Trevor James Constable. He's done many videos where he speaks out in public. The secret is, how do you use them and what's inside them? Those are the big secrets, and Trevor refused to make it public, and we refused to make it public, and that's why we have a team where we vet people quite stringently. We talk to them in person. We want to make sure they're real, and anybody listening to this, if you get in touch with us, yes, we are after genuine, honest healers who want to do something and make massive changes on the earth. Dare I stick my neck out that this equipment, deployed correctly, could even cure and reset the polar vortex. How about that for a statement?
Well, that's a big one, considering that there's massive talk now on the internet about the so-called pole shift and the magnetic north, and things are shifting.
Yes.
There's an awful lot of talk about that, and they're saying that even the mainstream media is reporting on it.
Yes, and there is equipment you can watch live that tells you where the North Pole is. Again, if we're to believe it or is it manipulated. There is what we call the ring of truth, and we know when it's the ring of truth, because you do alternative research and you get multiple opinions, and in the end you do come to a fairly accurate conclusion. Yeah, it is very difficult now because mainstream media uses some incredible techniques to make us believe what we think. I mean, look at global warming. If you stop people anywhere on the street, 98% of people will say, oh, yeah, we've got global warming. So they've done a damn good job of it, haven't they?
What about this? The Irish government are talking about the carbon tax, and I really haven't looked into it. I don't know whether you've read anything about it, Steve. Have you looked into it at all?
Well,
what's the idea behind it?
Well, the idea behind it, Alan, is just another tax. It's just another way. I mean, it's just basically another tax.
A tax on what? Our cars, is that? No?
On absolutely everything, because obviously, no matter what you buy, they'll add a carbon tax onto it, because, you know, I mean, what they're going to say in the future is, in order for you to get, pick a product, pick anything that's...
Bananas.
Right, bananas, right. We don't grow bananas in Ireland, so bananas are going to have to be brought in. So therefore, how do bananas get here? Well, they come on a container, or the trailer, or a boat, or whatever you want to call it, a big, massive ship. They're going to come in on that, so therefore that's going to be putting out carbon. And then in order to get it to the shops, it has to go on a truck, and then it has to, so it goes to a central distribution, then it goes out to all the different stores. So, before you even eat that banana that you've bought in probably Lidl for 39 cents or 49 cents for a bunch of them, that's going to go up. I mean, it'll affect everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
And it'll be snuck in, and there'll be nothing we can do about it.
No. Again.
You know what's amazing? They always say the answer is to charge more money.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah.
Money, the answer, that itself doesn't help the planet to charge more money. Why don't they say, oh, by the way, Tesco's got a special offer on today. If you don't have a bag of us, you're an extra 5% off. Why do they do that? Well, they don't. They say, oh, no, we charge an extra for the bag now if you want a bag.
No, sure, the solution's always going to be revenue. It's always going to be money, Harry. We know that. Sure, it's the same with over here. It's the same with the crime. You don't make money from... when a burglar breaks into your house, they don't make money from that. But if they stop you for your tax or insurance or whatever, we make money from that. So they're out with their revenue guns, and trying to clock you so they can give you a ticket. I mean, we've said this on the show before. So the fact that the carbon tax needs to bring that in for more money, because the solution, as you say, it's always about money. Then that's the government. I mean, we've said it before. We've said it on the show when we've had Thomas on the show, Thomas Williams. They're following. They're not leaders. Our politicians are not leaders. They're followers. and they follow Leo Varadkar, and Leo follows somebody else, and somebody above him follows somebody else, and they're following this program which doesn't exist anymore, and because they know nothing different, they just go along with following the old program. But I don't know what the solution is. I said it to you before we went live on the show. Theresa May, from what I've read, I don't know how true this is, but Theresa May has been promised a job in Europe. If she puts in if she can push through all the kind of arguments that she puts through to try and get that approved, then it's a case of, sod everybody else, I've got a job in Europe, I'm happy. Now, I know you guys are going through an awful lot with this Brexit. Is that right? You call it Brexit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
Brexit.
Let's flip the coin now. I read something last week, and it's on my screen now. And it's the secret covenant of the Zionist Jews. There's books about it. And I've been told, Paul Cantor sent me this. He's an activist many, many years, knows Terry Lawton well in the realms of activism. Now think about this. A cabal who took control of everything, the Federal Reserve, the finances, and this is why I wanted Michael Tellinger on, because he goes through the history of all this, that even right through the technologies of the giants and everything that came out, really interesting how they controlled humans. But in 1922, a lady risked her life. I believe this was the situation, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there that knows, I'd love to know the final details of it, but I've ordered the books on it. And there was a top secret Illuminati elitist meeting where they were talking about how they can control the whole human race. We'll give them sweets that burn holes in the teeth, that we can put soft metals in that will poison them. We can poison the water. We can give them medicine that thinks it makes them better when they become ill. We'll give them more medicine to make them more ill. And this was 1922. And yet it's like reading it, what's taking place right now today, right to the last piece. And one of the Achilles heel on this is that if everybody does find out, they're stuffed big time. And so part of the dumbing down is to keep our brains closed down so we're unaware that we're being shafted.
Yeah.
And it goes right to the top. It goes right through governments. Activists could say, right, I'm going to be an MP. Do you know, even if an activist got to be the Prime Minister, he still wouldn't make much difference because of what's the cabal that's above them. You're just either be a puppet and toe the line or you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the system.
Yeah. It is a case of the masses waking up, and it's so simple. If everybody, and we hear this 1,000 times, if everybody says enough's enough, we aren't putting up with this anymore, we know what's going on, they are stuffed. And that's one thing I do agree with the elites on, they would be stuffed if everybody did that. And that's why they'd crap themselves if everybody did. But there is an awakening happening. Call them the yellow vest, call it what you want. Everybody, even people who we know haven't woken up, know something is wrong somewhere. Seriously.
No, definitely. And the whole idea, I mean, the Rockefellers apparently, in the early 1900s were the ones who started instigating the medical profession and stopping the likes of cannabis being in the system. I think cannabis in Ireland was banned in 1925, something like that. That's a guess. Around that time, anyway. And then they had the Cancer Act in 1935. And it's all about control. I mean, it's quite obvious, even if you look at the justice system. So you have the bar courts, so the British Accredited Registry, and solicitors join the bar court, and the bar court is then controlled by their own system. And so it's in the interest of the solicitors to do what they're told, because if they're not, they'd be reprimanded by the bar court, which is controlled by the elites. And then if you look at the banking system, it would be the same thing. If you look at the medical system, it's the same thing. It's all about control. And this is what we said before on the show, that the hierarchical system doesn't work because there's too few people at the top can control too many. And I was just picturing, when I heard the news about Ben, Harry, you know Ben, I'm sure you've come across Ben, and I could just picture, this guy, or maybe a few guys sitting in their a nice plush seat somewhere in some venue. I won't mention any names. In the secret handshake club, and they have their Cuban cigar and their glass of a glass of wine in their hand, the Chardonnay, and going, Trevor, I think that's great to hear about Ben Gilroy in jail. What? And obviously, okay, I'm taking a pee, but you get the point. They'd be all sitting around there, and the arrogance of them all, and saying this, that, oh yes, we got Ben Gilroy, he's in jail, and this is the arrogance of them, and the ignorance that they don't see. Just that the arrogance will be their downfall, because they are so arrogant to think that because the history, we read it out earlier on, that the history of Ireland has been like this for hundreds of years. They think the programme they're now following is the same programme that's been going on for the last few hundred years. But that programme has now finished. But they don't know that, or they're too arrogant to realise it, or too ignorant to realise it. So that's going to be their downfall. So
what's amazing? Was it? Who was it? Was it Drumsfield that made an announcement in the States just before 9/11? And was it? I can't remember how many $1 trillion it was. It says, "Oh, by the way, we've got so many $1 trillion gone missing, and we don't know where it went." And then 9/11 happened. So that timing, that's how they do it. For some reason, they have to announce their errors and their plans. But I mean, think about what was said. Trillions of dollars have gone missing, and we don't know what happened to them, and there wasn't a mass uproar from the people. Yeah. Work out how many of them trillions spread. Somebody worked out it was something like £25,000 for every man, woman and child in the States.
That's right. It was like 2 to 3 trillion. On the Saturday, I think he said that, and then maybe it was the Saturday, and then the 9/11 happened on the Monday, the Tuesday. And this is it, and nobody kind of bats an eyelid. It's like in Ireland, we paid the bondholders, we don't know who they are, but we've paid them anyway. So you're giving this money to this entity that you don't know who they are. It's just this guy turns up in probably a balaclava and a Mac or something, and you give them this money in a briefcase to pay off our debts, which apparently we're not contracted to, because it's an odious debt. And nobody's asking, well, who are the bondholders and their politicians? Yeah, we don't need to know who they are. We just give them the money anyway. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. And if you remember that, there was one of the prominent kind of politicians at the time. He was very adamant. We don't know who they are, and he was told several times, we have a list here. And he said, no, we don't know who they are, but we're going to give it. And what he failed to announce at the time was that he himself, and I can't remember the chap's name, but he was one of the bondholders.
Yeah. It's I tell you, it's unbelievable. You can understand why they laugh at the people. They laugh at the Irish people, and maybe the people in the UK, but they laugh at the Irish people, go, we're telling you all this, we're telling you what we're doing, and you're just sitting there taking it and going, sure, you'll be grand.
What can you do?
Sure, what can you do?
What's on television?
Talking about answers, we're looking at Willem Reich and Ether and Cloudbusters and Translators. It's not just about the weather. We're talking of a life energy which is related. I've said this before, but this is for new listeners. An etheric flow at the moment of conception, this blue flash that even Tesla mentioned to do with life form, flashes over the cells, and under a microscope you can see it. There are videos on it. So there's something going on there that's outside what we would call normal, and that's related to life. And it's also a life energy. Tesla would not have discovered all the things he did if he didn't understand that. Tesla, by the way, suffered from tinnitus permanently.
Actually, there's a rumour that Tesla wasn't as good as he was. He was getting downloads.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Screaming, whistling in his head. Some of my inventions, I've taken the translators and enhanced them. And when I designed the bullet that goes in the 20-inch one, it's like a cone with a double cone on the back. There was a crop circle appeared with exactly that same shape on. Well, and my son was doing something with these spheres, chrome spheres, and exactly the shape of those spheres appeared in the crop circle the very next day. Those 2 days when I was doing those things, they appeared in crop circles. Now, I aren't saying there's definitely a link. It's just that those shapes are exactly the same as what the designs were and the physical things that we made. Weird.
You know your cones for the T20. You know the metal cones that you make for them. You know the guy in Florida who found out the way to move rocks, and apparently he used 2 cones and a vibration or an energy or frequency with the cones.
It is to do with frequency, yes.
Right.
But it's not quite the frequencies we are used to. We know there are other planes and levels, lots of other planes and levels of energy, which we can be aware of mentally as well, as Tesla was. And he made some most unusual statements to that effect. But there is tremendous energies. This is where Michael, by the way, for your listeners, Michael Tallinger couldn't make it tonight. When I spoke to him on the phone, he hadn't even got back from coming down one of the mountains. He's been collecting stuff and he was absolutely knackered, and he was late as well. So apologies for that. So that's quite disappointing, really. But these frequencies, you look around the planet, how many, for example, pyramids type designs are that are designed on frequencies, and Michael's an expert on this. The whole planet and on the ley lines, these are built smack on the ley lines and twisted. The phases are twisted and the corners are exactly the right degrees they should be. So it's an amazing thing of the things in the history and technology, and that's another thing I want to go into, things that we can do to help ourselves as well.
Well, we're going to be going into solutions. We'll save that for the end of the show, the last 25 minutes. We will talk about solutions. We do have questions that have come in, so let's pop off to the questions, Steve.
Okay, well, just in relation to NASA, I just want to read this one out. This is from Peter, just come in earlier, and he says he has a theory about why NASA uses married men as their astronauts. He says if they see something like a UFO, in order to stop them talking about it, NASA may say to them, "We will kill one of your family members," and he reckons that's why NASA don't use single men for their missions. Could be, I don't know. Anyway,
good theory.
It's a good theory, but on to the question anyway. Moon Girl on People's Internet Radio, Harry, she has a question in relation to storing and stocking food. She wants to know what recommendations that you may have for storing or stockpiling.
I'd use Lidl. You can go in Lidl, and for about 22 pence you can buy a large tin potatoes. They did tomatoes at about 17, 18 pence, because the thing with most activists is they don't have £1,000 spare in the bank at any one time. There are reasons for that, but it's surprising what foods that you can get. I've got a hydrator as well, or a dehydrator, where it's got a heater in the bottom, and you can dry bananas, apples, tomatoes, loads of different things, and then you get a little shrink wrap bag and you seal it, and that'll keep for years. So you don't have to pay a lot of money for long life foods. But it is true that tin food will last. You know, people have opened a tin of food 10 years later, and it's been almost as good as the day it was tinned. Now, a lot of people say that's rubbish, but you look on YouTube, there's people who stored them and opened them, and there it is. So, but you're fairly safe for 8 years. And what you do, I mean, for £200, you can get, if you buy all those, even, they do spaghetti. It's not the healthy spaghetti, but if it means the difference between no food in the shops and you can make a spaghetti, it's a no-brainer. 20 pence a pack. That's 5 packs for £1. So you wrap it in foil, you can preserve it keeps the damp out, and then you can store it in heavy-duty boxes and then wrap it in cling film, and it keeps it dry, and it's good for years. So it doesn't cost a lot of money to get 3 or 4 months worth of food stocks and just put it up in the loft, keep it safe. Do bear in mind that you might get mice and things like that. So tough plastic boxes, or ways, you've got to think of ways where you can put it, suspend it from the ceiling, for example, on a wire or something. That's just an afterthought. You wouldn't want to go up there after 3 months and find out it's all been eaten. And that's why tin food is good. Self-preserving, and it's got its own metal defence. But that's the sort of thing I've gone for. Yeah, and tin fish, tin sardines, tin beans. What is really healthy is like the tomato soup. You do a 4-pack of tomato soup, for less than £1. I mean, 4 tins of tomato soup, full size, for £1, 25 pence a tin. So there's a meal there for 25p. Who can't afford that?
Yeah.
But you think what happens now when social life starts to break down, and you've got these big estates and blocks of flats and a few shops around the area, and you've got the sheds that sell all the food, like Tesco, Asda. And one of my friends said, I said, what are you going to do when this comes? He says, I'll just go down to Tesco and get some more food. I says, you won't be able to go down to Tesco like that and get food. I said, the shelves will be allocated and they'll be distributed out, and if once people have been a week with no food and there's 3 kids starving at home, they're just going to ram raid the front of the shops and take what they want themselves. And when the shops are empty, they might even be knocking on your front door.
Yeah, I want to recommend to people who are listening, go and check out a documentary called it's called American Holocaust, I think it's called, if memory serves me well. It's the Geographic Channel, the National Geographic Channel did it. No, it's called American Blackout, and they did a fictitious what-if scenario, and he had 10 days of America going down with no power. And it was very good because they had the guy who was the prepper and then the couple in the condo who didn't have a clue. And it did start off where, the power's gone and we have freezer food. So the first day, number 1, the neighbours were out with the barbecue, cooking the food and going, the power will be back on shortly. And within day 3, they were killing each other for a tin of tuna. And it was the what if scenario. What if the power went down for 10 days? So if you want to see that documentary, it's on YouTube. It's called American Blackout. It's very good. It really kind of gives you some reality of the difference between not knowing anything and being caught out and being a prepper. But even the prepper got caught out in the end, but it was just because he did something silly.
Yeah.
But
in history, it's always those that prepped and were aware and awake and could see it coming that did survive.
Plus the fact, Harry, that if people know that you have food, they'll kick down your door. So you have to be prepared as well.
So you've got to be discreet who you tell and where you store it as well.
Exactly.
But looking at things like the ether, we said it's not just about the weather. I'm just looking at things about water. We're 80% water. And water is an amazing thing on this planet. And people don't realise it has 5 different states that we know of. Another one's been discovered where hexagons appeared. It actually isn't water. At the moment at point it starts defrosting and goes from solid to liquid, it goes through another stage. It transmutes through another stage of hexagons, which the molecule or the structure of the water actually isn't water. It's amazing. Probably some people have heard me say this before, but they took 2 drops of water, this is on a video, in a laboratory, and they stored all the books from 13 libraries on one of the drops and 1,000 Blu-ray DVDs on the other. And then played them back again from the drops of water. Wow. That's incredible.
That's smart.
And we're made of this stuff, so water has memory. And it's water that we use in the translators. We've had cases where people have had terrible situations outside fracking, where they've been, an old lady was dragged across the road with her knees bleeding on the road. Yeah, imagine that. Dragged by police on her knees on a tarmac road. And this was the week before. This was up north near Manchester way, so Yorkshire, where they were putting protests out. And he came to my house and had a 10-inch translator. And he deployed it from his car from 100 metres away and had a cup of tea and sat in the car while it was deployed and walked down to them. And people were coming and the police had walked across the road at this point, and the police were chatting to the people where the week before they'd been almost fighting, and they're just chatting as though, what did you do the weekend, lads? I took the lads out to the pub. Oh yeah, I took my son to football. It was like they were having a day out for a walk, for a meet-up. He says he couldn't believe it. He's never seen it before. And Michael Tallinger was going to say tonight, his first time he had a translator in his hand, apart from when I met him at his show, This is over in South Africa. He deployed it, and within 20 minutes, thunderstorms came over the horizon, and it rained for 3.5 days.
Wow.
In fact, when he made the video for me in the pub having a pint, it was steel sheets on the roof, and you could hardly hear him talk for the rain pounding on the roof. And he's asked us to deploy on places like Kruger Park, and the effects of the deployments can last for months. Once you change the bad effects of what comes around that's blocking the atmosphere for rains, and it opens it up, the results are superb, absolutely superb. We had rains coming down riverbeds that hadn't seen rains for almost a year, and that was the next day after we deployed. Now, you interviewed us before we were going, and it was spectacular. And within 12 weeks, every reservoir was completely full.
That's incredible. And what about Australia? I think I was in touch with you about Australia, that they were having massive droughts over there.
Yes, some places still are, by the way. And this is, for some of your viewers, if you're really trustworthy and you're into healing, get in touch with us. We will vet you. And we want more people on the team, people that we can trust. We've got an excellent website that will be going public soon, and people will be able to see lots and lots of things that are going on there, and it's a bit more power to our elbow. How about sending 100,000 letters of a notice of intention to prosecute these guys?
Well, I will say one thing. Your team do like talking, because when I'm on Facebook, most of the chat that's going on is actually from your team. Which is a good thing. Do you have another question there for Harry?
We do have questions, and just to say that we do actually have a couple of listeners, Harry, who are tuned in this evening. They're actually on, I think one of them is on the chat room there now from Australia, so maybe after the show he may, if possible, give you a shout there, because I've seen the pictures of what's going on in Australia, some of the drought, some of the conditions, and yeah, it definitely needs to be rectified.
Let me tell that person now, there has been very high temperatures, and there are techniques that we use with translators. We can drop the temperature by going up a steep angle. You know when you've got a cloud of smoke in your face, and you whisk your hand down from your face and blow it away? That's the effect the translators have right on the upper atmosphere. We can go up 30,000, 40,000 feet. Now the temperature up there can be minus 50 degrees. Over Australia being such a big continent and the sun shining there, it's not. But even if it's only 15 or 10 degrees, that coming down to a lower level makes a big difference. But this is what we did in the last 48 hours. There has been high temperatures 3, 4, 5 days ago. When a double-barrel cannon translator deploys in declination through the planet, oh yes, you heard it right, through the planet, we see the effects about 6 or 7 hours later on the other side of the planet. Now that is mind-blowing, and people listening to this might think, this is where I switch your radio off, but hear me out. Anybody can go on to Null School, which is a live satellite, wing satellite, and click temperatures, and from a part of the South Pole, you will see a breeze blow across. It's a blockage, and it shoots straight out towards the west coast of Australia, and that was us, 1,000%. And wow. That's the thing that teams are doing. So, I mean, we even saw on satellite the rains forming where that Cloudbuster was pointed in South Africa. And do you know what I love about this? The elites have trillions of dollars at their disposal. And yet a translator, which virtually costs a cup of water to run, can drop thousands of square miles of chemtrails, heal the atmosphere, and create rains. And China was going to move in to South Africa with contracts for their water, and Nestle from the States had already got a contract in place to provide water for South Africa and around Cape Town. And we filled all the reservoirs.
Fantastic.
Now I call that a result.
Now, talking about chemtrails, I did mention this on your group on Facebook, that we were told that the actual chemtrail program is now coming to an end, or near enough. It's on its finals because they don't have the money. Now Trump has pulled the budget, the 800,000 workers, but also the funding for the chemtrail program has been stopped because they've no money. Now, I definitely have seen a reduction in chemtrails. What about you, Steve?
I'd like to say yeah. Well, around here I haven't seen any in a couple of days, but I was in working in Dublin on Friday, and Friday morning there were, well, I mean, I normally would see maybe 6 or 7, and I seen 2.
Yeah.
And they dissipated fairly quick. Well, they were over maybe an hour or so. They dissipated.
Yeah.
Definitely a reduction. Yeah.
I've definitely seen a reduction. Anyway, it's not like it used to be, and I did mention it on your FB group there. How are you seeing things, Harry?
Well, I have seen less chemtrails, but there's still people in the UK that see massive chemtrails being laid. It hasn't stopped, that's for sure.
Okay.
But you see, there is an alternative technology that CERN had been working on called CERN Cloud. They still need a chemtrail for it, but it's to do with Tesla technology, whereby they use the chemtrail as a conductor for whatever frequency they are sending through the atmosphere. Now, they've designed a frequency that creates very small aerosols at molecular level, and then they can use them as condensing aerosols to either create rains. The sad thing about too many aerosols is that where the water would condense on them, if there's too many, the water starts to condense, but there's that many aerosols, it doesn't rain at all, because there isn't enough water to land on each particular aerosol and create a raindrop. So raindrops do not appear. So there's two ways they can use it. But if they're only using chemtrails as a conductor, and the frequencies are now creating other aerosols, because this is what people are seeing. You'll see a massive chemtrail go over, and then all these finger-like clouds come off the side of the chemtrail, and clouds start spreading out. Now that's not just the chemtrail, that's at some kind of frequency that creates aerosols, and then you get all these like fingers coming out and points and then it joins up with another chemtrail somewhere else. Now, here's the kicker that I think that's what they're doing. Here's why. The CERN cloud operation was based on solar positive ions hitting the atmosphere and turning into aerosols. Now, when I was a boy, if there was a few clouds and the sun came up, they dissipated. That was moisture. Now what we see, we can have a blue sky in the morning and 1 or 2 chemtrails, and then the whole sky whites out when the sun comes up. That's not moisture. That's aerosols. Okay. So there's this other program going on. I'm not saying that's happening everywhere, but it is one of the things that they are using, and the patents, many patents are there in place for that. But here's why I think translators and cloudbusters are the answer. Wilhelm Reich took a sample of radiation and put it in an orgone box. And the radiation increased massively by at least 10 times the amount. There was 2 rats inside that box, and those rats didn't die, and they should have. But for a 500-mile radius around that laboratory, people got radiation sickness. So what it did, it transposed the radiation from a concentrated, deadly amount and transposed it into something that became harmless. So if we can use that same energy in the atmosphere to negate what's doing and turn it into a healing wave, if you like, then that's a totally different story altogether. That's something that we don't have to pay a lot of money for, but we can get fantastic results. And you know what? That's what we've been witnessing.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because Thomas did mention, Thomas Williams from the THI, he did mention to us briefly. He didn't go into detail, but he said there is a way that we can change the frequencies of 5G and Wi-Fi and the like to a positive healing frequency, because the whole idea of the shungite, which was what we were told, is that anything that man creates, like the Wi-Fi and the 5G, is an anti-clockwise rotation, and human beings, we work on a clockwise rotation, and the whole idea of the shungite is that it switches the rotation from anti-clockwise to clockwise, so it's like a protection. Now, if there's a way that we can do that with the 5G technology and the mobile phone technology, where the frequency can be changed for a positive healing frequency rather than a negative frequency, what it is, then happy days. Now, as I say, Thomas alluded to it, but he didn't go into detail about it, and maybe that's something that's coming down the line. But that would be fantastic if we could actually do something about that. The other thing I want to talk to you about is, there's all this talk at the moment about the dimming of the sun. Have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, that's your solar minimum.
Okay.
That's when you don't get enough solar flares, and the life-giving frequency band is ultraviolet. That's your blue light, and that light is the one that kills the fungal spores and the viruses, and hence your Black Death in the 1400s when we had a solar minimum.
Okay, so and they want to.
I've got an answer for that, by the way.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Here's what happened. When the Black Death was around, there were certain groups of people that it didn't affect at all, even though they came in direct contact with it. They even touched dead people, they mixed amongst dead bodies, and they didn't even get affected at all. They didn't cough, they had no symptoms whatsoever. And you know why that was? They were families that worked in pressing oregano leaves and making oregano oil. Now, oregano oil is known to kill all fungal spores, all viruses, and all germs. Fact. It's one of the only natural substances that does. And what's quite funny is the robbers who didn't want to, if they thought, right, there's houses there, we can go and rob, because all the people are dead, but they wouldn't go in because they'll catch the Black Death. And what they did, they washed in oregano oil and breathed it in like a steam. And sure enough, they didn't catch the Black Death.
Yeah. I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting. And what I've
done, I've put the organic oregano oil, and I use what we call a structured water, distilled structured water, which atomizes a lot easier. And you put a few drops in one of these atomizers, and you breathe it in as a vapor. Now, I've had some amazing feedback on this. Recently I had one family where they'd had visitors, two of the kids were coughing, one was coughing blood up and the other got this cough, and she begged the parents, said, here, try this. It was one of my vaporizers. I'm not here to make money, I don't make money on these, I want to provide cures and answers for people. And she gave this to the kids and they tried it, and within 24 hours everything stopped, no more coughing, no more blood, and even the mother was genuinely impressed. She says, wow, if I hadn't seen it with my eyes, I wouldn't have accepted what you said. Oh, bingo. But coming back to fungal spores, the elites piggyback on the back of a disaster and compound it worse. So we're in a solar minimum, we're getting less ultraviolet light, and they want to block the sunlight out.
Yeah.
Well, that'll work great, won't it? And on the back of that, in the chemtrails, they put fungal spores.
It's you would think they were trying to kill us, Harry.
No, they love us.
No, they'd never do anything like that. They love us. Okay.
But this is all part of the wake-up. When thousands and millions of people start to see this, that we've been screwed in every direction. You know, dentists are actually volunteering not to use mercury anymore.
Well, because
nobody can be sued. You've only got to go on the internet. A dentist can go on the internet and see that mercury is a neurotoxin. So if you go on the principle, you know, if you buy a washing machine from Tesco and it breaks down, you go back to Tesco, not the manufacturer. So if I get problems with my teeth, I'm going back to the dentist. Because if it's causing Alzheimer's disease and nervous problems, the dentist won't sue him.
Yeah.
He put it in there, and he can't claim ignorance by saying, oh, but I've got a piece of paper here saying it's safe. That's bullshit.
We had Bernadette Bowen on, and she actually went over to Switzerland, I think, to have her amalgams taken out, and they dressed up as if it was radiation. They had masks on and everything.
Yeah. So it's okay, shove 12 of them in my teeth, but you don't want to even come near me.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to go to a dentist that knows what to do. If you're a dentist, if you go into the dentist and he goes, yeah, no problem, jump up there and I'll take them out for you, then you're going to the wrong dentist. They obviously don't understand the danger of amalgams. And,
it costs 10 times to take it out than he did put it in.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah. There's always it was like, I remember watching a TV show about the whole Hollywood thing about having breast enlargements, and two of the guys who are involved in that, and they actually obviously did the industry, and they did obviously put out the breast enlargements, and then when the women came back and started giving out about they were having problems with them bursting and everything else, they made even more money taking them out.
Yeah.
So,
that's right.
You got more questions for Harry there, Steve?
We do indeed. Okay. I'll just go with this one first. This is kind of the last question in from Peter. Peter says, Walt Silva has some shungite on an old satellite dish that is pointed at a satellite in order to spread the shungite effect around the world. Is that something that you know about, or you can tell us about, Harry?
Never tried that. I won't answer what I don't know about. But what I do know, that shungite is an amazing crystal, if you want to call it that. It's, if you put a piece of shungite on your fridge door, not only does it preserve the food, but the fridge becomes more economical and frugal with the use of electricity. And that does happen. That's a fact. It does. I'm glad you mentioned shungite, actually, because shungite has amazing effects where energy is. I have got a energy saver that you put around your gas pipe, your fuel line on a car. It contains shungite and magnetite, and it's set at the correct alignments magnetically, because when it's cast, magnets are around it, and the whole shungite magnetite lineage, the vortexes within the magnetic field, it sets in that place in resin, and that makes it more efficient. So shungite is an amazing thing for conserving or affecting the flow of energy. What happens when you put neodymium magnets in a compression mode around, for example, a gas pipe or a fuel line? All the molecules, I'll explain in a minute, molecules don't exist, but let's just call it molecules for now. Instead of being haphazard and all over the place, once they go between the magnetic field with shungite, they all line up in a straight line, and it makes the fuel burn up to 40% more efficient. How about that?
Okay.
So I put one on my gas boiler, and at the time we had a prepayment meter in the house when we bought it, and I never said anything to my wife. She didn't know it was on there, and she kept putting the same amount in, and we built up this massive credit on the meter. And this is winter, cold winter. It was last year, and she says, "Are you using the gas now?" "Well, you don't know. Have you turned the boiler down?" I said, "No." I said, "I put an energy saver on it." She says, "Well, it's doing something because I've got to stop putting money on now because we've got so much credit on." So it does work, and I am providing those now at virtually cost price as well. So if you can save up to 40% off your gas or your fuel on your car, that's got to be a winner.
We did get one off Walt. He kindly gifted one of these devices with coils and magnets to put it onto our power in the house, and right. I did just to test it out, but in all honesty I'm not really seeing any benefit on the electricity bill. It's still kind of the average kind of bill that we'd expect to get in. I'm not saying that it's not working, but
to that.
Sorry?
Yeah, you need to add surge capacitors to that, so that when motors kick in, instead of them drawing too much energy, the energy goes in the capacitor, like fridges and strip lights and hair dryers and vacuum cleaners. Heaters, it doesn't affect, it won't save energy there. But what happens is, it stores the wasted energy, instead of it being burnt and turned into heat, and then when the motor's running, it releases it back again, so it balances the system up. Yeah. Very efficient for people with engineers who've got massive motors stopping and starting.
One of the things that I did read about is that the electricity that we actually get to our house is actually dirty electricity, and if you can even just smooth that dirty electricity out, the spikes, it's going up and down, it's not smooth, and even if you could get something just to smooth out the electricity, you could probably save yourself between 20 and 30% on your bill, because it's dirty electricity. I mean, the ideal scenario would probably to run the power from the house that comes into the house into something like a UPS that could take that power and then connect the UPS to your your box, your power box, and then run the power around the house from there, because the UPS will actually smooth out the electricity. But a lot of people don't have that facility. It's just run straight to your electricity box, and then it's around the house. And that's why a lot of these devices are out there that you can buy that actually advertise the fact that they'll save you money. A lot of them are apparently taking the electricity, smoothing it out, and then putting it back in.
Yeah. The strange thing about electricity is it doesn't run through the metal, it runs on the outside, so it's a field. As Tesla said, everything is a frequency, a wave, and a field, with regards if you want to understand everything in the universe. It doesn't run through the metal. And translators work the same. The etheric flow, it works on surfaces, metallic surfaces, and when you get a contrast between organic materials and shiny surfaces, then you get a potential for an etheric flow. And that's how they work.
Okay, we do have more questions for you, Harry, so we want to get through them. Steve?
Yeah, that's quite interesting about the electricity. I did not know. I assumed that it ran through the metal.
No, it doesn't.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Dougie is wondering, Harry, has Harry ever treated plasma with a pulsating inverted energy field with the pulsations at a different frequency, then treating it with hydrogen?
I am glad he mentioned that. Wow. No, I haven't.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I don't even understand the question, and Harry does great stuff. No, so you haven't tried that, no?
Plasma's very interesting because the Russians did an experiment in space, and they created a plasma ball in weightlessness. And do you know what it created?
No.
DNA strands.
Oh, that's interesting.
Etheric vortexes, exactly the same as in galaxies, but it started off in square rotations. Started off in a square rotation. And you know what? In fact, my team will verify this. When we deploy across the Atlantic, we get a double vortex, a clockwise, anti-clockwise, and most of the time it starts off with a square. Exactly the same that took place inside their plasma experiment. Now, this is where ether blows your mind, because it covers every subject. We're even looking, that's why Willem Reich was trying to cure cancer with it. It's because your DNA is related, your DNA strands is related to plasma and frequency. Because ether programs the DNA. That's why you get the blue flash over it at conception. So in theory, you should be able to reset the DNA using an etheric flow. In fact, I'm glad we've come to that, because can you remember on the 11th of the 11th, a wave went from Madagascar around the planet?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were deploying, we had a team in Europe, and loads of people deploying on exactly, not near to, but exactly that spot to bring rains into Kruger Park. Loads of people deploying there. Now, the announcement wasn't made for that wave until about 10 days later, 8 to 10 days later, because a seismologist picked a weird wave up that started there, went all the way around the planet, and stopped at CERN.
And nobody could explain it.
Nobody could explain it. And we were deploying there. Now, here's where it gets mind-blowing. I've done a video on this, and what happened is, that wave that went around the planet, at the same time, when Donald Trump was giving a talk, on a sheet in front of him was a DNA structure. And that DNA structure was chromosomes, which they class is rubbish binned chromosomes that the body doesn't need. In fact, the body does need them. They were very, very critical to the body as far as they said that these chromosomes were involved with a structure that is affecting the brain. And it means when people wake up, a consciousness where we can accept information to our brain, and we become more aware of just the physical things around us. Isn't that interesting? Now, on this piece of paper, somebody zoomed in and did a photo. I've researched all this. It's all absolutely true. What resurrects those DNA chromosomes is an etheric wave. Isn't that interesting? An etheric wave. It's in the realms of ether that these chromosomes work.
It's amazing how all this works. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, they were dropped right in front of me on the same day, and I thought, hang on, this video I've seen, they're talking about DNA that's been disassembled, and the wave that went around the planet that ended at CERN. The point is that CERN was doing experiments on DNA programming, and that wave stopped there at CERN. Their D wave.
Coincidence?
And DNA restructuring of chromosomes at CERN. That's what they've been working on. All on the same day. What are the odds of that?
Yeah, well, there you go. Synchronicity. It was meant to happen. Listen, we have more questions for you we want to get through. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Peter, as I said, is in Australia. He's wondering just how small can you make a cloudbuster and still have an effect on the weather?
Right. I'll tell you a story about that. There's a gentleman that lives in Adelaide in Australia, and he created a translator no bigger than your finger. And his father had it in his car, driving along with it, quite a few hundred miles, and his father said there's been some massive weather changes, not forecast, and the guy said, well, I haven't been deploying. This is the son of the father who had given it to him. He says, well, I haven't been deploying with mine. I want to know, because you get to know the changes in the weather, which is what you create and what shouldn't happen. And he couldn't figure it out. And then he found out that this translator, no bigger than as big as his finger, was in the car, and that's what was causing it. So when you're looking at ether, it's almost like, you know, the guy at the power station, a nuclear power station, when they start the reactor, there's a little button in front of him, and that button is what starts it all off. And that's the same thing with the translator. The bigger it is, the faster the reaction, and generally the further distance it goes. So we use larger translators to change the weather from 6,000 miles away. But the small ones are still, you're in the etheric world and realm that changes and can change the physical realm. And now I'm a dead straight, down-to-earth guy. I've written patents. I was a mechanic down the coal mines, you know. When you've got a nut and bolt and a spanner, you get the right size. It's perfectly logical. It all makes sense. This just blew me away.
Well, I'll tell you, there's going to be a job for you in June, and I'll speak to you off air about it. We have a job for you in June, got to do with having good weather.
We bring weather to Scotland, by the way, because some snow, because nobody's been skiing up there.
Yeah, you were saying that off air before you went live that you put some snow in Scotland, all right. I'm sure Laurie's going to be happy to hear that. She'll be thanking you. Well, we have more questions we're going to try and get through. We have probably about 10 minutes left or so. So if we can fly through them, if we can, that'd be great.
Okay, and I've just come up with I'm sure Harry's heard this before.
Oh, sorry, Steve. We have about 15 minutes. Sorry. 15.
Okay, I'll talk slower. So, a theme song for Harry and the group there, Crowded House. Do you remember that song where everywhere you go, always take the weather with you?
Terry Lawton played that outside of the Harp station in Wales.
Did he? Great stuff. Anyway, Shane is wondering, Harry, when you say my team...
I was listening to that. I was on the radio, actually, when I got in the house today.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Right, we'll continue on anyway. Shane is wondering, when you say my team, how many people are in the team, and are they all around the world? And when you say we deployed, how many people does it take to deploy?
That's a good question. We've got teams in the USA, Central USA, East and West Coast. We've got people in Australia, although there's only a few in Australia and New Zealand. They're all over Europe. They're in the UK, Ireland. We've got people in Africa now. We've got people in the southern states. So pretty well, around the planet. The number of us is a sensitive number, so I won't go into that. But you'd be surprised with the right deployment at the right angles. Once you make contact with the ether between the Earth and the atmosphere, sometimes 2 or 3 translators with the right size is sufficient for what you want to do.
Okay, so you don't need that many going at all. Peter's also wondering, in relation to the Cloudbusters, what are the hazards with the Cloudbusters? For example, he says, standing in front of the beam coming out of a Cloudbuster, or maybe touching the copper pipes. Any issues?
Right, that's a good question, that one is. Willem Reich had a problem. When he went into the desert of Arizona, he was there 6 weeks. He actually didn't make it rain, but what happened is a mist used to appear every morning and everything becomes saturated. And this is in the middle of the Arizona desert, okay? And one of his workers, and it happened to Willem Reich on one occasion as well, grabbed the steel tubes of the Cloudbuster and he felt like a shock go through him. And it was almost replicating a stroke, but it wasn't a stroke, and that was called DOR. It's called deadly orgon. Now, it's normally only applicable to the larger type Cloudbusters and translators. However, what we've learned since, there are things that you can do. One is you must allow the water to go back to Earth. That eliminates that. Although if the water hangs around for days and weeks on end, the ground can be contaminated with DOR as well. The other thing that you can do is put an earthing wire of copper into an earthing rod from the translator or the Cloudbuster into the Earth, and that eliminates it. You cannot have a problem by standing in front of a translator or a Cloudbuster because the etheric flow doesn't quite work how you think it does. How would I explain that? The ether works in a way, it's the 2 points instantly that react with each other. Similar like a split proton. If you split a proton on 2, and you send half of it to the other end of the universe, and the other half to the other end of the universe, and they're a billion light years apart, it doesn't matter how far apart they are, if you bounce one, the other bounces at the same time. That's a fact. CERN's proved it. So translators work similar to that. So, for example, if you were to point at the sun, you get an instant reaction between the translator, the Earth, and the sun, almost instantaneously. That's how ether works. Okay.
I think that's a reasonable explanation. Where we go next? Moon Girl, she's in County Cork here in Ireland, Harry, and she's wondering about church spires. Are church spires beacons for energy transmissions?
They are, to some degree, similar to how pyramids work. You get a double vortex up out of a pyramid because of the 4 sides. Church spires, this is where Michael Tellinger would come in. There are amazing frequencies from anything, even rocks that they built in circles like Stonehenge. It creates, if you like, partly an etheric field as well. Lightning is actually a discharge of ether instantly. That's what lightning is. It's an etheric discharge. So yes, there is partial reaction between the Earth and the atmosphere. It acts as a conductor both for positive negative ions, which is basically electricity as well. So yes, it does. But you know, my wife's from Burma, and if you look all the way around the world, one of the things that they did for temples and mosques, they always have this dome roof or a spire, and it goes to a point. And there's a reason for that. That has to do with energy, earth energy, that travels through that building and up to the atmosphere. It's like the further you go back in history, the more they knew about it. And that's why they built these massive pyramids. The pyramids weren't tombs, by the way. There's no bodies in the pyramids. They didn't put bodies in the pyramids. They were buried separately away from the pyramids. The pyramids were a form of communication and generation of energy. So similar to the church spires. There's a reason why they have that massive big spire above people that go there for religious reasons.
Well, there's a reason why we have a massive big spire in the centre of Dublin.
As well as, that's the place to go to church, and that's where they collect the money.
Yeah, well, the spire, we've heard about the spires and how they can be used for negative energy to push negative energy out. And we have a massive, they call it the stiletto in the ghetto is the nickname for the spire in the middle of Dublin. And if anybody goes to look at Dublin, go on Google Maps or whatever, and have a look, you'll see a massive spire. We've no reason why it's there. Nobody knows why it's there. It's just there for some kind of strange reason. And we have talked on the show about this spire and how they use this kind of energy and technology to promote negative energy. I think Mick from Liffey Sound was on, and he said that he actually got inside the spire, and he found it interesting. But yeah, I think it's more so got to do with energy than anything else. Now we did say that we'd focus on the solutions there, Harry. We have about 10 minutes there. What are the solutions for moving forward regarding weather and anything else you want to throw in there?
When I was given this technology, I begged for answers, and I knew there was something big. It's not just about the weather. And when we're looking at Earth frequency changes, it's related to DNA, it's related to people's thinking. Everything's related. We're all related in thought to each other as well. It might sound ridiculous and confusing to a lot of people, but the elites are into all these sort of things, aren't they? They've known secrets, and they've kept secrets from us for thousands of years. Wilhelm Reich said that. He says they've been doing this for 8,000 years, and that's why they murdered him. He started digging in the right places. He was over the target. He was looking for cancer cures. He was looking why this life energy is so important. And him and Tesla exchanged information and apparatus on occasions, so they were both on the same line. Where we go in the future with this? Well, we know it's a healer. When people use this for deployments, we see I've had prolific growth in my plants around me. I have snails crawling around my translators in summer, even on a dry day. People have had plants leave trellises and crawl up the tripod to get to the translator, so the life force is a positive effect. Plants know what's good for them, so when they do things like that. And the Russians built a large pyramid many years ago in the sacred geometry shape. And one of the people who is I can never remember this word, what is it, a botanist? A botanist was there, professional botanist from university, and when he was there, he saw a plant that he's never ever seen before, apart from in a book. And it was a book on fossils of plants that were extinct millions of years ago. And yet this plant is right there in front of him. And what it was, it's to do with what was happening in Russia. An experiment happened in a laboratory with an ether generator, and they used it on genetically modified food, and it reversed the genetically modified cells back to organic by the third generation of the seed.
Oh, just a question for you regarding this Etheric energy that you talk about. Have you tried to replicate Wilhelm Reich's orgone room for healing? Have you tried that at all?
No, but I've got all the materials to build it, and that's my next job.
Okay, because that would be very interesting if you could actually build that and try and replicate it and see how you get on. Because he had actually people where you could, he'd build a room, whatever way the science of it worked, you'd know that much better than what we would, but people would just sit inside it, and then the orgone energy would be in there. I don't know how long you'd have to sit in there or anything like that. But he had some good success with that.
Absolutely. One of the farmers that he went to that was going bankrupt, he went to this farm. They made it rain, to which that was just normal for him. And he said, "Well, do you not have any help on your farm with your children and that?" He says, "Well, we don't have children. My wife's been barren since the day we were married, and she's been told that she'll never have children." And he says, "I'll be back." And he put the Reich healing box and chamber onto the back of his truck and left it with her for about 5 or 6 weeks. And he told her how to use it. 6 weeks later, she's pregnant.
Wow.
There are no coincidences. And it's based on potentials of the etheric field. You create two. You cannot get a transfer of energy or anything unless you get two potentials. Tornadoes and hurricanes are created by negative and positive ions and two potentials. So what you do, there's one potential is the box itself that you sit in. The other potential is a smaller etheric generator box connected by a pipe that goes into the person, into the other box. And what it does, it pulls the negative energy that creates the problems out. And that's when your cells and your body start to heal. And that seems to run through all of nature, this etheric flow.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Energy. People even run a car. There's a guy in Australia who runs his car on an etheric flow.
That would be interesting to do that. Now, one of our listeners, Dougie, said that you could get a room and tile it with shungite tiles. That's an interesting, proposal, really, to do the orgone room and then actually tile it with shungite. I don't know what effect that would have, because we have to be careful that we don't want to put too much good stuff there, because you don't know what reverse effect it might have. You might think it's doing good, but it might end up having a reverse effect.
Naturally, we are meant to walk on Earth's surface, on the grass, and not to be in a artificial situation. But it might be good for the potential to do it now and again. Yeah.
It'd be like having two antivirus programs on your computer. You can go overkill, and one antivirus program would attack the other one, or find the other one and think that's a virus, and vice versa. So there's no point going overboard. So I don't know whether that would work. You'd have to kind of monitor the flow of energy.
I am working with plasma. I've got Tesla wand plasma generators, and there's a guy who's making what he calls orgone bubbles, Mike Emery. He'd be worth interviewing sometimes, and some members of our team have actually got a piece of his equipment, and it generates through organized copper pipes, electric current and infrared, or blacklight infrared as well. So that's something that I am looking at. But he's even himself, he's paid compliments to me and said, Harry, your equipment is incredible. It goes for thousands of miles and does the changes that you say it does. And he's pretty well qualified.
See, this is half the battle, Harry. The likes of the device that we put on the electricity with the coils and the magnets, the science and the theory behind it all sounds plausible and it sounds good. But unless you have something that you can monitor that and see the effects happening, okay, you could say that, your power supply bill has probably come down a little bit, but to actually, until you can have some kind of meter that you can go, right, this was before and this is after, and have some kind of record, it's very hard to turn around to say to people who don't know this stuff, and they go, well, I don't believe that. And this is why we're not, myself and Steve are no different. We like all this technology, but we like to be able to prove it as well.
Yeah, you get a Bunsen burner where the flame comes out, and you put my device around the pipe, and the flame changes and becomes hotter. And then you take the device off, and the molecules, or the etheric vortexes is what they are, then aren't changed in the way that they would have been, and the flame returns back. You can even put electric current or a magnetic field through the flame.
So you could get a laser gun. The laser gun we have that checks for the heat. Yep. So you could point that laser gun at the flame, and then put your device on it, and then put the laser on it again, and you should see a temperature change.
You will see it. You will see a change. Yeah.
Okay. See, that's if you were to put that on video. If you said, right, this is what I'm doing. Here's a video. Here's the Bunsen burner. Here's the temperature now. Now here's my device. I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to check the temperature again, and there's the difference. That's exactly what we're talking about, and that's the best way for people who are not awake or who the skeptics will say, well, prove it to me. Well, there you go. There's the proof.
NASA uses that system on their fuel lines for the rockets.
Okay, but that's
interesting.
I mean, are you concerned that that works, but you don't want to put it out there on a video because there's a reason behind it?
No, I already made a video of one of those devices being assembled and how it's made.
Okay. That's interesting, because it's nice being able to play around with technology like this, especially if there's a benefit. I think myself and Steve are kind of in the situation where we have a workshop available to us anytime we want to. So we have the certain facilities in the workshop that we can actually make some of this stuff for a bit of fun and do the videoing and say, right, this is something that that we've worked on over the weekend or something, just to prove to people, to show them. It's something that we like doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Another subject, we mentioned water. If you Showberger looked at vortex in water, and it changes its structure and condition, because the vortex is what kicks in when you have your plasma ball and plasma fields. If you take one of those water vortexes and put magnets on the outside and compression mold, and then also use shungite on it, the water is restructured, and it is very, very healthy to drink. There is a video on, if you type in "don't drink this structured water till you see this," they do it, and this is on about testing now, you want evidence. They did a blood test of the patient, and all the blood cells are congealed and they look ill and they're sticking to each other, so they drink this vortex water that's restructured, and 15 minutes later the cells are totally different. They've got more oxygen in, they're not congealing, they're active, they look healthy, the walls look nice and solid and strong as the blood's being pumped around, and that's just after 15 minutes. So the blood becomes charged. After all, we are electrical. Our bodies are electrical. And that's why we don't like frequencies and microwave frequencies and EMF.
So that's why we need to wear the shungite. Okay, Harry, we have Steve wants to jump in and say something there, and we'll have to start wrapping things up. Steve.
Yes. I'm just guessing. I mean, that experiment with the device for checking temperature. If we had one of those little things that Harry is talking about, I mean, I suppose we could do that on the gas heater that's in that location that you're talking about. I mean, obviously the gas would probably burn hotter. So that might be worth checking out as well.
I'm sending one of these to one of my friends who, in 18 months, has driven 220,000 miles in a car.
Wow.
He goes from London to Glasgow and then back to Norwich. So he will know immediately within a first week whether these work or not. So it'll be interesting to see how his economy changes when he fits this to his car.
Yeah, keep us posted. Well, we've reached that time, Harry. I'll have one more question. Steve always wants to get a quick one in.
I have to get a quick one in. Just very
it's going to cost you.
Right. Just very quickly, Paddy is wondering, Harry, what is your take on 5G?
5G, we've got 5G currently in our routers, but it's not the 5G frequency that they're on about bringing out. Again, 5G is lethal. It's absolutely a terrible frequency. And when you're talking of 90 billion waves, a frequency wave per second, your mind can't take that in. And when you think that your DNA works on frequencies, the moment that frequency is disturbed, your DNA is going to get all the wrong signals. So you're looking at cancer. You're also having your blood cells change, which means your oxygen levels will plummet. It's bad news.
It's bad news. It's like you're going to be sitting in a microwave, basically. It's not good. Okay, Harry.
One of the answers I did come across is that one of the things that upsets the 5G frequency, in fact all frequencies, is a triangular structure, like in copper, for example. If you think of a spring, but the spring isn't round, it's triangular, and each triangle is a slightly different offset to the one before it. So you've got all this copper wire bent into a triangular spring, and the triangles are like two of them go one way and then another one, then they come back again. So you've got this rotating triangles in a spring. That has a very large effect on smoothing out what we mentioned before, pollution in the frequency range. And I put those triangles, I've found a source for them, a most unusual source that makes exactly that. And I put them in the pendants with shungite, magnetite and 24 karat gold.
Brilliant.
Okay. To give some protection, so.
Excellent. Well, listen, Harry, we've reached that time. We have to let you go, but thanks a lot for coming on. Much appreciated. Great information that you've given us there. And we'll pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your contact details.
Okay, Harry, yeah, great information. The chat room, both of the chat rooms there, lovely positive comments coming in, and people saying thank you for the extra time that you have given us this evening, because we know it was supposed to be Michael on as well, so thank you for kind of staying the distance. If people want to find out more, Harry, if they want to maybe get involved in the program, the translator program, or if they're just looking for more information, where can they find that information? Right,
I don't mind giving my email address, which is IPI Rhodes, that's Indigo Papa Indigo, H for Harry, and Rhodes is spelled the same as the island, which is RHODES @hotmail.com. I'm also on Facebook. I believe I've got about 4,900 friends at the moment, and I've got about 900 friend requests, so I haven't accepted a friend for months because it'll blow me out anyway. And that's difficult. So people can message me on Facebook and send me an email. So yeah, we can do that.
Great stuff. Okay, Harry, stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go off to a musical break.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMIreland.com.
Yeah, some great information there from Harry Rhodes. Again, his email address, ipiroads@hotmail.com, if you want to contact Harry.
And of course, the stuff that he has for that fungal spores that people have that persistent cough. As you know, I had a cough for 2 months or something. You know, I call it
the rest.
I call it the 100-day cough. Our neighbour calls it the 100-day cough, and the rest. So I think next time what I'll do is bloody just get some of that stuff and take it. Right, we have a few minutes before we go. Just to let people know that Thomas did a very interesting podcast. He did an impromptu podcast last night because there's so much going on, folks. Really so much going on regarding America, Pelosi, Trump, and the wall and the shutdown of the American government. It really is getting to the stage where, you know, the next few weeks are really going to tell us whether we're going to be winning or losing, put it that way. Now, he did mention that Pelosi wanted to organise another 9/11, where at the end of the inaugural speech, I think, or some speech that Trump is going to do, a speech to the nation or something, at the end of the month. The whole idea was that he'd be there with Pence and everybody else, and Pelosi would send in guys to do a 9/11, and then she would automatically become president. And even the Boston newspaper, actually on the front page, said Madam President on it. That's how arrogant they are, that they actually, they had that on the front page saying Madam President, because if Trump goes and Pence goes, she gets to be president. That's just scary, that they're that arrogant, and she's so blatant about it. But she's taken over from Bush and Blackwater and everything else. It's a long story. Go over to Truth, Honour and Integrity and have a listen to Thomas's latest podcast. You'll get an update on what's going on there. It's a bit mad, I'll have to say that. It's very interesting. We are in interesting times at the moment, but it's a bit mad. Now, tomorrow is Independence Day in Ireland. 21st of January 1919 was the setup of the first stall, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people down at the Mansion House tomorrow with the turning of the Sovereign Seal. Billy's going to be down there, obviously, doing the turning of the Sovereign Seal. And Billy did ring us. Last week's show, we had Tom on, and Chris did ring in. And him and Tom had a bit of an argy-bargy over things. And after the show, Billy rang us. And so we said to Billy, well, look, Billy, do you want to come on the show and actually talk to us about what your knowledge is of the history of 1919 and everything else? And he said yes. So the plan of attack is for next week for Billy to come on to talk to us all about that. Now, it's a bit hit and miss at the moment because they don't want Billy talking, and 1 minute his phone could be working, next minute it might not be working. So we'll have to play it by ear and see how we go. But the plan of attack is that we've asked Billy to come on next week. Now, he couldn't have come on tonight anyway because he's down in Dublin tonight. He's staying over because he's doing the turning of the Sovereign Seal tomorrow. So that's the plan of attack. Also tomorrow there's a blood moon apparently, and also there's an alignment of the planets happening tomorrow as well. So it seems to be all happening. 21st of January seems to be a big deal at the moment.
Oh, it's my sister's birthday as well.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so she was born on Independence Day.
She was, yeah.
Independence Day.
Not quite 1919, though.
What would be the Irish version of the movie Independence Day? Can you imagine?
Yeah.
There'd be an alien invasion, and they'd be all in saying, yeah, it's 1 o'clock, I'm pulling down the shutters, we have to have our team sandwiches. Them aliens, tell them to come back at 2 o'clock.
Well, that's exactly what it'd be like where I work anyway.
Oh, God, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the plan of attack. There just seems to be an awful lot going on. I'm watching kind of more so what's happening in America, because it's going to affect everybody somewhere down the line, and so it is interesting. And they tried to take out Kim again. MS-13 gangs tried to take Kim and the team out again, according to Thomas, and obviously some of them went home in a body bag, and that's what happens. But there is a big statement from Kim as well on the THI website, so you can have a read of that and see what they say. What's planned for the week? Anything planned? Don't talk to me about cars, by the way. My car, I got it fixed. It cost me an arm and a leg. And
I was wondering why you came in tonight with only one arm and one leg.
I sold a kidney on eBay, and and what happened was the fan heater went, and then we fixed the fan heater, and then my key stopped working. My key fob stopped working, so I had to sort out the key fob. I mean, old cars, you never have any money when you have an old car.
Yeah. What do we call you? Lucky?
yeah, probably something like that. Anyway, but for myself, do you know who's on PIR?
I do indeed. Barry Prince is up next after us on People's Internet Radio with the big puzzle, so stay tuned for that.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so for myself, so again, just a reminder, if you are going to send us information, please don't just send in the link on its own. It'll go straight, it's going to be deleted. Put a description in the link so we know what we're going to be looking at, okay? But for myself, have a great week. If you have any news, let us know. We are looking at other stuff that's going on. We have other interesting guests coming on as well, coming down the line. One about how about healing yourself if you have chronic pain, mind over matter. There you go.
Yeah, I've actually seen one of the links that we actually sent in during the week, if you remember, by the chap who talks about his wife died. And he brought her back to life within a couple of seconds just by massaging a heartline meridian on her, I think it was on one of her feet.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of, that's going to be interesting.
And that's one guest. We have another guest who does mind over matter, healing chronic pain.
Was that the one where it said just by reading a book?
That's it. That
just
one,
by reading the book, the pain went.
Yeah, just by reading the book.
It was obviously Playboy.
Yeah. No, that's a different pain. Okay, for myself, Alan James, take it easy. Have a good week. And if you have any information, let us know. Bye bye.
Okay, great information from Harry Rhodes, and all the links are in the chat room there. IPIRhodes@hotmail.com is the email address if you want to contact Harry. Great information, I have to say. So yeah, we'll get in contact and see if we can find more information in relation to the oregano or the oregano, the solution that he talks about there. So yeah, we'll do that. Anyway, as I mentioned, Barry Prince is up next on People's Internet Radio, and just leaves me to say thanks to everybody who joined us this evening, both on the live stream and also in the chat rooms. You're all very welcome, and it's nice to see everyone coming along every week and getting involved and asking the intelligent questions. You know, it really is. It's amazing. And info@oymradio.com is our email address if you want to just fire us off an email if you have any information, or as we said, if you have any ideas for guests for the show or interesting videos. But as Alan said, put a link in the description, because otherwise they won't be watched. Anyway, that's it. We'll catch you again next week. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.